Well, today guys, I may or may not have been thinking about playing with this beast over here for obvious reasons, AMX 50-155, but instead I am going to cover one of the most intriguing topics once again. Sandbox 2021 changes to SPGs article released 14 minutes ago. Once again, I'm very sorry, I try to be faster next time, but this one is a big topic once again. And I actually do have a lot of comments to give myself as well about this big massive topic over here, so let me introduce it to you and let me give my own points as well, because there are some things which worry me a bit. Stuff what I'm not so sure about, stuff which is completely missing what I hoped, what I thought is going to be in the list. Let's cover all that. The third Sandbox iteration will be entirely devoted to testing important, complex changes that we suggest for both SPGs and other vehicles. Check out the new alert features, sound detection, aka 6 cent for artillery. By the way, this is completely different way or different solution what I thought they are going to do. Brighter shell tracers, markers of SPG shots on the minimap, and the reworked intuition skill to see how much easier it has become to counteract SPGs and how their influence on gameplay has changed. We are also eagerly awaiting your feedback, so feedback on the Sandbox server, ladies and gentlemen. Right now, I was testing it, Sandbox server is not working. I don't know, hopefully it comes in a bit later. We have a long article right over here, but I do have some issues with this already. I do have quite a few comments to give about all of this right over here. By the way, once again, if you take part of the Sandbox, you are able to get tokens, you're able to redeem those tokens, yada. Let's take a look at this video together as we like to do it over here, because Sandbox server right now is down, and let's see what they do, because I have actually seen this video and it covers everything we need to know right now about this new artillery system. So let's go.
Artillery in World of Tanks is a tactical, unhurried, and appealing vehicle type for many players. At the same time, it's the most controversial vehicle type in the game. The third iteration of the Sandbox server is fully dedicated to SPGs. We recently tested our hypotheses regarding high explosive shells and a brand new cruise system. Now we've come to another topic that is on the minds of many players, and the Sandbox is the best place to test the new ideas.
Yeah, once again, quick note, ladies and gentlemen, this is only going to be a Sandbox server, and when we were able to look into this upcoming artillery changes, they at least said to us that they do not hurry, they do not rush with any changes to get those into the live server. So what that means is they are not scared to go back into the drawing boards, completely scratching all the ideas depending on our feedback. So let's give them some feedback, most definitely. So once again, yes, this is only a Sandbox server. It doesn't guarantee what we're watching right now ending up in the game.
The statistics show that artillery is popular among players. One way or another, more than half of all players join battles in SPGs from time to time. The reason for this is that artillery allows for playing at a steady pace with no rush. At the same time, artillery is quite a controversial vehicle type.
Oh yeah.
Despite many improvements, it's still a matter of a debate. One artillery shell that comes in from somewhere beyond the horizon has several simultaneous effects. It causes damage, damages modules, and stuns. We know that the latter is very frustrating for players. We want less stun in the game. It's also hard for players in the heat of the battle to evaluate when and where the artillery will fire. Tankers can't counter such an attack because they learn what the invisible enemy has planned only when they or their allies are hit. This is unfair. The goal of the upcoming changes tested on the Sandbox is to provide the players with new tools and more information to counter artillery fire. The artillery itself will have more opportunities to adjust to the combat situation due to the new interface features and revamped shell system, where only one of the 3 shells will keep the stun mechanic. The SPG players will use different types of shells with different effects, and that will lead to a noticeable decrease of stun in battles. At the moment, tankers don't have clear methods of countering artillery during battle. Largely, they can only rely on their experience. With experience, there comes the understanding of artillery lines of fire on different maps, where the SPGs can be located, and what you need to do to avoid their fire. But this wasn't supported by the game mechanics before. The new test features help players understand several things. They warn you that the artillery is firing directly at you. They give hints as to the artillery's approximate location. And if you're not the target, they show you where it's aiming.
Yeah, not bad. Let's keep watching.
In battle, it's not always clear where the artillery is firing from. So you don't always know which positions offer cover from its fire. That's why the tracer of the artillery shells will be more noticeable during the sandbox testing. A brighter and therefore a more visible tracer not only looks spectacular, but is also a useful tactical element. It can help you understand approximately where the artillery is located.
Yeah, this moment right over here, this angle right over here, for example.
But is also a useful tactical element. It can help you understand approximately where the artillery is located, what cover it can fire over, and where to hide from it. This will help you take a safe position where its next shot won't hit you. The reworked tracers are clearly noticeable even from afar.
Okay.
During the test, commanders will get a new perk to train, sound detection. It's
okay, more about that in a second.
Designed to reduce the surprise effect from the artillery shells falling down from the skies. At the moment when artillery fires, the players in the impact area will see a special indicator. It signals that the vehicle is under fire and you need to change position quickly. The indicator is displayed according to certain rules. As you know, the artillery shells have a burst radius. For example, it's 10 meters for the Object 261. The danger zone inside which the indicator activates is a sphere around the burst radius, increased by 30%. In the case of the Object 261, the sphere's radius is 13 meters.
Yeah.
Every vehicle will have its own imaginary sphere that depends on its size. If these spheres come in contact, sound detection will activate for that vehicle. The minimum sphere radius is 3 meters. This is the value of armor-piercing shells. Sound detection will also activate when the arty player aims and fires behind the vehicle, for example, if it's on a hill. Players will be notified when the vehicle sphere intersects with the artillery shell trajectory, but only at a distance of up to 75 meters from the point of impact. Sound detection won't activate in other cases. For example, if a fast tank rolled into the danger zone while the shell was still traveling. If 2 or more SPGs fire at once, notifications for each SPG will appear. In cases when they fire from the same direction, only one indicator will display in order to not overload the interface. Depending on the shell velocity and distance to travel, sound detection will give you precious seconds to react and change position. You probably won't avoid damage completely, but there's definitely the chance to reduce it significantly.
Okay, so let's recap this topic. This final thing shows quite clearly how much it can help medium tanks and stuff like that. They say it very, very nicely over here. Most likely it doesn't make, or it doesn't mean that you completely are able to avoid damage many times, but it helps you to receive less damage if your reaction is fast enough. Like over here, you know, boom, this indicator kicks in, you start rolling back, for example, or you start moving, you know. You don't know actually about the RNG of the artillery as well. Maybe artillery was aiming right over there, exactly right over there, but you know, artillery's RNG aiming circle is big as the map and still hits right over here, so it doesn't matter. But many times it may save you some hit points, you know, if you see this new indicator, if you see this tracer coming in and you back up.
Won't avoid
those 2 tracers, very nice as well, and you can easily ping on the minimap where those shots are coming from, and you took a bit less damage. Now, Where does this have absolutely no effect? In my opinion, I would say tanks like Type 5, tanks like Mouse, tanks like need those big, fat, slow, heavy tanks who get absolutely no use of this because they simply do not react, like they simply do not move anywhere. They do not move like an inch in the first 3 seconds or 2 seconds or 1.5 seconds for however long the artillery shell is going to be up in the air. For those vehicles, this little addition is nice, but it doesn't help them too much. I do have a couple issues with this. Number one, new crew skill for the commander. Number one, commander is already so freaking under so freaking hardcore pressure, and now you add another new skill to it, what people most likely have to retrain. And you can see that from a little tooltip as well. Training is available upon achieving major qualification level 100. So if you want to use this on your commander, it has to be 100% trained. But let's say you already have 4 crew skills on your commander and you are training your 5th one. Let's say you start training this one because you do not want to use gold to retrain your commander skills. Then you literally have to wait like 500 battles to get your crew skill up to 100%, to get your 5th crew skill up to 100%. So many players do not, many free-to-play players especially, do not ever get to use this unless they start training it as the first crew skill, right? In my opinion, it's like many reasons. As I said, commander under heavy pressure already, recon, situational awareness, 6th sense, brothers in arms, all those skills what needs to be researched. And another one right over here, there has to be another way. Just make it available for everyone and let's be done with it, please. Just make it available for everyone. Secondly, we just talked about Crew 2.0. Many players start thinking, well, Crew 2.0, we just tested it, it wasn't over there. What happens to that? Crew 2.0 coming? Is it not coming? Well, according to the latest feedback, this time they actually listened to us and they wrote down that they need to fix many things. Most of the things actually were in my everything wrong with Crew 2.0 video as well, so I'm quite happy about that. Definitely a couple issues with this sound detection, artillery 6th sense. I thought it is going to be a completely new thing, a completely different thing. I thought, you know, artillery can see enemy artillery firing on the minimap, but hey. Artillery hit marker on the minimap. This one I actually do like. If you know how to use the minimap already, this one is going to give you some more information.
Sound detection and brighter tracers are clearly displayed sources of information that help in battle. They will be accompanied by a new tactical feature on the minimap. After the enemy shell hits the ground, a vehicle, or any other object, a special circle will appear in that spot on the minimap. You can select the option to display it in settings. The marker will disappear after 10 seconds, but will give you a lot of useful tactical information. The shell impact point will help you figure out where the artillery is firing from, as the number of convenient positions for it on the map is limited, together with more noticeable tracers. This gives players...
This is very nice. You can see tracer, so everything combined. We have more visible tracers just to pinpoint the artillery. We have the artillery so-called 6th sense, the sound detection, and now you can see from the minimap, like let's say you are playing with Guerrilla 15 in this bush, artillery fires, you can see that on the minimap. You are playing with a heavy tank right over there, like I'm pointing on the minimap right now. You are thinking about pushing in, enemy team has 1 artillery just fired, a ring appears on the minimap, or ring appears right over there, ring appears right over there. You know where artillery is aiming, you know when to push in, you know when you are safe, you know when artillery is not aiming at you right now. And as soon, like if you have your eyes on the minimap already, if you know enemy artillery, like reload time, even roughly, let's say 30 seconds, you see ring appearing on the minimap, you know that now you have roughly 30 seconds to reposition and you do not have to worry about any artillery fire whatsoever. So indeed, it does give some information. So now, next up, let's talk about the topic which may or may not reduce artillery's stun stunning in the battle, in all of the battles. And once again, I have a couple issues with that. More about that in a second.
Tactical options provided for artillery will help it better react in combat situations and stay as effective as possible for its team. The main new feature in the test is 3 different shell types for SPGs. During the New Balance testing on the Sandbox in 2020, we increased the number of artillery shell types to 3 after adding AP shells. This system got mixed feedback. 3 shell types didn't increase adaptability because changing the shell type still took too much time. Armor-piercing shells, in their turn, proved to be not effective enough. Also, players weren't happy about the shell cost. The players in other vehicle types didn't get the desired changes as well.
Exactly every single thing what the guy just said was correct. I wasn't happy, like me personally, when we were able to test it out 1 year ago, I wasn't happy about basically anything they do to the shell types. AP rounds 100% useless. The stunning HE and damaging HE damage difference was absolutely non-existent, and everyone after they tested out the new damaging HE went back to the stunning HE and absolutely nothing changed. Nobody used AP, nobody used damaging HE, and stunning HE remained the same.
At the same time, players liked the concept of 3 different artillery shell types and a reduction in the amount of stun. That's why we didn't abandon this idea and started improving it. As it is now, artillery players don't have much choice. Let's take a look at the Object 261. It has a standard cheap shell with acceptable burst radius. And there's a very expensive special shell that has only one advantage, a slightly wider burst radius.
Yeah, this is actually quite, quite comical in my opinion. Whenever I see Object 261 firing a premium HE at me, the cost is more than 3 times of the standard shell, and all you get is 1 meter extra burst radius. This actually makes me giggle because there is no difference in receiving damage, just extra 1 meter burst radius. That's quite comical in my opinion. And now they want to change it.
Burst radius. It will still cause damage in Sandbox test server. We're bringing more variety by adding a 3rd tactical shell and adjusting the characteristics of high explosive shells. In the new system, the first shell of the Object 261, as well as of other SPGs, is the standard high explosive shell. It has a relatively high burst radius. It will still cause damage and stun the enemy, but won't be able to cause critical damage to internal modules and crew upon a non-penetration anymore. Its armor penetration will still cause damage and stun the enemy, but won't be able to cause critical damage to internal modules and crew upon a non-penetration anymore.
This one is quite a big thing actually. Stunning HE basically doesn't injure crew members. If they splash you for 25 damage, they do not kill the entire family inside the tank. What they did before. So that's quite a big thing actually.
Its armor penetration will remain the same, but the basic damage value will be lower than the current one by 10%. The second shell type is an alternative. It's also a high explosive shell, but it doesn't cause stun. Its burst radius is 2 times smaller than that of a standard shell, and its area of effect is 4 times smaller. But its armor penetration is roughly 50% higher than its current value, and its damage is 10% higher. Also, unlike the standard shell, it can cause critical damage to internal modules and crew. Finally, the 3rd shell
but no stun. Okay, before we move on into the AP round, which in my opinion is still like extremely situational, maybe borderline useless, I don't know, you tell me. Let's talk about this right over here. So previously my biggest problem was that the stunning HE and damaging HE had basically like the gap of the damage, the gap of the difference was way too little. That people didn't choose the damaging HE almost never. and everything was the same. Vehicles getting stunned all the time, and same I can kind of see right over here, ladies and gentlemen. So pay attention, this is damaging HE. How often would people choose 68mm of penetration, 990 alpha damage shell with 5-meter burst radius, no stun, over 810 damage? So 810 damage, so you get less penetration, less damage, but better burst radius, 2 times better burst radius, and you have stun. So the damage difference on 261, for example, is only 180, and this was my biggest worry with the first test as well. 1 year ago, I gave my deep feedback why it is not going to work. 95% of the time with artillery, you are simply going to do splash damage. You are not going to penetrate. And do you really think people want to choose or would choose? Maybe they do. Let's discuss over here. Would choose this shell with 180% extra damage, while, as I said, you only penetrate, I don't know, like 5% of the shots, maybe what you take right. But 180 extra damage, 95% of the times, means only 50 extra damage per shot in reality, because you do not penetrate, you only splash, you only do a tiny bit of more damage. You know, because if you do not penetrate, your damage rolls are still 300 up to 400. Same with this shell, same basically with the previous shell as well, but you have a lower burst radius. If you miss, you deal a lot less damage, and if you do not penetrate, you know, you deal basically the same amount of damage, and you do not stun at the same time. So is the damage gap worth it on 261? In my opinion, at least it is not. So let's talk about the AP round now.
Than its current value, and its damage is 10% higher. Finally, the third shell type is tactical. In the case of the Object 261, it's an AP shell. However, some vehicles will have heat shells. This is a useful but situational shell that is significantly different from the ones that artillery used to have. Unlike high explosive shells, it doesn't have a burst radius and stun effect. It can only hit one target, but the damage upon penetration is much higher than that of a high explosive shell upon a non-penetration. The tactical shell's armor penetration is 4 to 6 times higher than that of high explosive shells. Players will likely not use such shells as often as high explosive ones. We expect that they will comprise up to 20% of all shots.
20%, that's way too much.
We aren't using the special...
That's way too much. AP rounds, in my opinion. Even with that high penetration, there is so much RNG. You have to hit your target. If you hit, did you hit the tracks? Are you going to bounce? Did you hit the edge? You can actually hit the track, still 0 damage, and all those things taken into account. Like, I don't see people carrying more than 1 or 2 AP rounds unless they try out like some meme builds, unless they play only with AP. Like, I'm going to test it out. I'm going to play artillery with only AP rounds, for example. But I don't see too many people honestly going to, like, the AP round is like so drastically situational and still extreme RNG, maybe only helpful in close range, some city fights, some meme tanking action. That's just my opinion. Yeah, okay, so just quickly to recap this, they're going to change, they're going to remove so-called special shell status on the artillery, and they're going to rework every single shell's
much lower compared to
every single shell's price, basically, and they're all going to cost the same. You can see the stunning HE is the cheapest, the damaging HE is a bit more expensive, and tactically is a bit less expensive, but basically the same ammunition cost across the board.
Will also be close to that of the standard shell. Despite the changes in pricing, the profitability of the vehicles won't change much. Thanks to the 3 types of shells, the Object 261 will be able to appropriately react to different situations. The standard shell is the simplest to use. You won't cause much damage, but you will hit several targets at once while also stunning them. The alternative shell is for situations when you want to cause high damage upon a direct hit. Finally, the armor-piercing shell is the best option to fire at a heavily armored slower tank, especially...
This is Badger. Firing AP round at Badger many times is like crazy gamble, I would say.
If it's using a spall liner. Artillery players won't be able to play effectively using only one shell type. The key to success is the right combination of shells appropriate to the combat situation. Each of the 3 shell types has its own velocity and trajectory. The standard high explosive shell travels slower at a more curved trajectory. This shell is easier to lob behind a hill or cover. The alternative standard shell travels faster but at less of an arc. The trajectory of an AP shell is the flattest, but it reaches the enemy quicker than other shells. And it's not...
I remember them mentioning this in their plans. They want to give different shell types different arcs and speed, and it's, you know, I like, once again, quite situational, but the curve is not like that drastically different, I would say. So once again, stun engage, he gets quite a bit of an advantage over here, I would say so, because you're able to like land your shots better on the top of the vehicles, what usually can end up being as a penetration, you know, unless you're firing with AP round. AP round, once again, the least of arc, you have to hit them face on, so, you know, that's not always bad. Yeah, this is the shell trajectory interface changes. Let's talk about that as well.
Base improvements. When aiming, you can immediately see what shell type is currently loaded. Also, thanks to the special indication for each shell, you can evaluate if the shell can fly to the targeted location or if there are any obstacles in its way. If the indicator is green, you are able to hit that location. If the indicator is red, there is an obstacle in the way. Also, a more convenient way of changing aiming modes was added. After reaching a certain zoom value, you can go from the top view mode to the trajectory view mode when scrolling the mouse. At the same time, the G button on the keyboard will keep its function. There's also another useful new feature.
Nice.
You can now see the shell travel time next to the reticle. This will make the life of a regular artillery player easier under the new conditions.
Now, when I first heard about that, it actually made me laugh, guys. They want to make artillery class easier. I don't know who thinks artillery is too hard to play right now. Them adding this timer definitely is going to make it easier. It shows basically how much you need to lead to get easier hits and so on. I don't know who thought artillery should be easier, but at the same time it makes it, you know, this playing ground a bit more equal, because it has been part of the mod packs for literally years, so all the people who do not use mods now have the same mod inside the game in the vanilla client, but to make it easier, I don't know about that.
It will now be easier to assess when exactly you need to fire when leading a moving target.
Yeah.
But these are not all of the new interface features. More options and additional functions are available in the game client's settings. 3 different shell types offer new opportunities for artillery. But the long reload traditional for this vehicle type still remains. The combat situation can change quickly. So what can you do when the shell is loaded but it doesn't suit the situation? This is where quick switching between shell types comes in handy. The reworked Intuition perk will be responsible for that in the new crew system. This perk will also be changed during Sandbox testing. It will work for any vehicle, not just for artillery, and will allow for switching the shell much faster than usual. A fully trained perk speeds up the process by 60%. The commander's bonus adds 6% more. And with the bonuses from Brothers in Arms, food consumables, improved ventilation, including the one for bonds, and directives, you can boost it even more.
So it's basically what they had on the Sandbox server. Like, this is basically what they had on the Sandbox server, isn't it? So, long story short, let's say you have a 20-second reload on your artillery, you have fully trained out, maxed out intuition with the commanders and everything, switching shell instead of in 20 seconds, it's going to take you 4 seconds, under 4 seconds now. And we are done. So, ladies and gentlemen, sandbox test. There is a lot I want to test out actually, so stay tuned for some more testing. But what more I was expecting from the sandbox test server? No mention about the siege mode. They had the siege mode idea, at least, just to make the artillery, you know, a bit more interesting. You have to go into the siege mode if you want to fire, then move, you know, just counter-arting, you have to be a lot more active many times. Siege mode, that was deleted. No mention about the matchmaking, triple artillery battles, non-stop triple artillery battles, definitely. Well, maybe this is part of the matchmaking overall. Triple artillery and the triple or maybe even 4 light tank battles, you know, when we have 3 or 4 light tanks and 3 artilleries. Those battles are absolutely the least enjoyable battles to play in this game, in my humble opinion. Then individual vehicles like M44 problem, which is actually massive problem. Low tiers, middle tiers getting triple artillery all the time. None of those things were addressed at the moment, but as far as I know, as far as I heard, they want to take this big change, you know, drastical change to one vehicle class step by step. So hopefully they add some things in the future. One thing definitely what I want to see in the future them adding is artillery 6 cents, what I had in my mind, which is when RT fires, enemy RTCs indicator on the minimap with the position, so at least they have counter artillery going on, and tanks on the battlefield can have some rest. Players enjoyed that type of artillery in the armored warfare so much more than what we currently have in the World of Tanks right now. So hopefully they are going to do something with that, and overall, like, it needs to be more of a support role, right? Once again, we have so many things going on at the same time. Black market, sandbox for the artillery, so a lot of content to cover coming up in the next few days. Stay tuned for that. Brighter shell tracers, 6 cents for artillery, which is not going to affect, is not going to do anything to slower heavy tanks, which are the biggest and most common targets for the artilleries. Like, what is T92 going, T95 going to do? What is mouse going to do? Oh, mouse is going to accelerate away from it. So I would say this is a waste of a skill slot. Why it has to be a commander skill? Why the damage difference is not bigger? Like, let's increase the damage cap between stunning HE and damaging HE, not by increasing the damage over here, but decreasing damage right over here. Like, there is some feedback I would like to give to them, most definitely. What do you think about that? Let me know in the comment section down below. And of course, stay tuned for some sandbox footage. That is me done. I hope you enjoyed. Stay awesome, stay sexy, stay naked, take care, and bye.